bomb. No, I don't play no games. Alright, and so this is courtesy. If y'all want to thank me for this video this early, because I was going to wait a few more days until I did one on radiation, because the radiation one is going to be off the charts. Like I told y'all before, I haven't even started yet. I haven't even dropped the jewel that I wanted to drop on y'all so far. But, you know, when my queens, they request something, you know, I always got to do something with my queens. Say, look, I need you to, you know, bring out some information on this, because they're like, okay, we seem to be disproportionately affected by this. And many of us are, unfortunately, because we don't understand what its what its principal concern is regarding this organism. And its principal concern is to make sure that it consumes carbon. Remember, we already said that the melanin molecule is C18H10N2O4. More than half the atoms of our melanin molecule is made of carbon. Yeast want carbon. You are lunch. That's what you need to know. All right. So this is courtesy of Katina Williams. So she was like, you know, what's up with them saying that this herpes is incurable and all of this different stuff? Let's see first, you know, and then let me preface this by saying, like, look, I'm not providing you with any medical cure. There's no such thing as a cure. I'm not any medical advice. Go to your local Blanco scientist for all of that. Contact your local Blanco physician, and they should be able to tell you what's going on. But for purposes of scholastic inquiry, you know, we're inquiring from a scholastic perspective. We want to see what's going on. We want to compare this information to what they tell us, to the research that they got going on. And then I'm going to allow you to draw your own conclusion. Remember when I said, when you're at the intersection or the crossroads of common sense and intelligence, please choose common sense hands down all of the time. So let's get into it. First, we're going to see what the Blancos say about it, right? We're going to read a couple articles from some health sources and stuff, some, you know, from some resources that they put out there for you to be, you know, for you to get some clarity. And we're going to see, this first one is from Healthline. Healthline, all right? And it says, what do yeast infection sores look like? Because a lot of people, you know, once they get a yeast infection or they get herpes or something like that, so-called herpes and, you know, and these yeast infections, they you know, don't know if it's a yeast infection or they don't know if it's herpes. They're scared at first, and then so you have to get tested to know sometimes, because the doctors can't even distinguish it unless they test for it many times. So this is, you know, so we'll get into that and we'll see, and then we'll figure out if that's really actually the case. What do yeast infection sores look like? Blisters and sores are both possible symptoms of a yeast infection. A sore is defined as a raw or painful spot. A blister is defined as a small bubble of skin that's filled with either fluid or air. You can determine which you have by examining the area closely. Yeast infection sores can look extremely similar to sores from other conditions such as herpes. A yeast infection sore is usually accompanied by a rash and redness of your skin. These sores may appear anywhere. Now you're going to hear this you're going to hear this a lot. Let's repeat this. Yeast infection sores can look extremely similar to sores from other conditions such as herpes. We're going to figure out why that's so. We got to do some investigations. Now, this is from Fast Med Blog. Printed, article came out November 11th, 2015. Okay, bang. Can herpes cause yeast infection? So you see all of this confusion, right? And so, they're acting like you're asking this question and you're confused. We're going to see that both parties may be equally confused. Or somebody's lying. I don't know. Let's figure out. Let's read. Can herpes cause yeast infections? Although the symptoms are extremely similar, there is no correlation linking genital herpes and yeast infections. In fact, genital herpes and yeast infections are two very different problems. Now remember that, two very different problems. Genital herpes is generally a sexually transmitted disease, although it can be contracted in other ways and is incurable. Yeast infections are caused by an overgrowth of fungus in the vagina and can typically be easily treated. All right. This is what they're saying. Now we're going to read down a little bit, right? Same article. Although similar, there are some distinct differences between the symptoms of genital herpes and yeast infections, including genital herpes typically causes small blisters, while yeast infections do not. Now, they already read from other articles. They actually can, but, you have to get tested to be for sure. Yeast infections often cause a white and clumpy discharge, while genital herpes does not. Treatment options. Because the symptoms are so similar. Look at these crackers. It is a good idea to see a medical professional in order to determine their cause. Remember, go to your local Blanco scientist. Treatment for herpes and yeast infections are vastly different, and if left untreated, each can lead to complications. Treatment for herpes typically includes antiviral medications to reduce discomfort caused by the symptoms and prevent spread of the disease to others. That's how they make it different through these antiviral medications. But what we've already established through the Blanco, ain't no such thing as a virus. I'm sorry. From what the conspiracy theorists state, ain't no such thing as a virus. Okay? But that's what allows them to make that distinction, amongst other things. And we'll bring that up. Now, Healthline. Healthline. And I mean, this Blanco got some letters behind her name. Medically reviewed. So this article was medically reviewed by Cynthia Cobb, DNP, APRN, WHNP, BCFAANP. I mean, this bitch, man, she got an alphabet behind her name. These Blanco scientists be cracking me up. Written by Tessa Sawyers, updated on May 30th, 2019. Okay, let's read some of it. Overview. Yes, you can get yeast infection sores. So now remember, this is updated. Remember the last article said, well, yeah, typically you don't get yeast infection sores. See how they're always in conflict with one another? This is the reason why, as a people and anybody else who's affected, regardless of whatever persuasion they're from, are always so confused by the information that is disseminated by the medical community. But anyways, let's read on. But they're not common in most yeast infections. Sores or blisters usually form from other skin conditions such as a rash that stem from the yeast infection. If you have sores or blisters, you should see your doctor to make sure they're not caused by a more serious condition such as herpes. All right. So really, how did all of this come about? We talked about the virus, how virus came up a little bit, and we had mentioned Dmitry Ivanovsky, but he was the one who actually did the filament test, right? But the actual guy who came up with it first was a guy by the name of Adolf Meyer. So Adolf Meyer in 1882, he had came up with this idea. Now, mind you, it hadn't been substantiated. This is what he thought, what he speculated. It was called mosaic disease. It was from plants. Now, mind you, these Blancos who can't be out in nature had said, Mother Nature's sick. So remind you, it wasn't even you first who they said was sick. They said Mother Nature was. So by default, black people, you would have to be sick because what is your primary source of nutrients? Mother Nature. So if they said Mother Nature got viruses first, now mind you, up to date, it's about 900 viruses that plants have. Plants were the first one with viruses, not even human beings. So, what happens is, Dmitry Ivanovsky and another guy by the name of what is his name? Let me see if I probably got it. Martinus Bejernik. Martinus Bejernik was his name. They did these filament tests. Okay? And these filament tests, basically they were taking the sap from the tobacco plant. And what they found out was the sap that had the virus in it was causing other tobacco plants to get sick. Right? So this is when the term virus had came about, because of this conclusion that they had drawn. Right? So this is interesting simply because we had already talked about the dates, when they had actually, began to learn more and science began to continue to keep changing. But I'm going to just get right to the meat of it because I wanted to get into some symbolism too as well, because this is going to shock you. All right. Now, what you have to understand is that what do trees primarily, besides providing shade, besides basically powering this whole matrix, because we know that fossil fuels are what? They come from two sources: decomposition of animals and trees. Okay, that's where our fossil fuels supposedly come from, right? That's what Blanco science says. So they not only power this whole matrix, they're also home for what? Birds. Why are birds so important? I'm glad you asked. Because what do we know that birds do? And we get so upset when they do it to our vehicles. They poop. And what's in bird poop? Funguses. Yeast. Okay? So if they pooping, guess what they pooping on? Leaves of plants. And so the plants have this ability to protect themselves from the sap that they secrete. A lot of you know this is turpentine. You see what I'm saying? So, but, this is a way that the plant protects itself, or the trees protect themselves, right? So, this is, by convenience, they had to make up something that you couldn't see, I couldn't see, or that we couldn't substantiate on our own, because we don't have the facilities, we don't have the technology, etc. So they came up with this, unknown infectious agents. Got to be something else. We're excluding fungus. We're excluding yeast. No, it can't be that. Even though we know it's all around and it's everywhere. No, it just can't be that. It's got to be something else. Because they wanted it to be something else. How do we know that? Now, side note, if you work with plants to any degree, especially if you work with growing indoors, like marijuana, any plants indoors, a lot of people use fertilizers, right? One of the most popular fertilizers is bat guano. Oh, we gonna get to that. I'm about to shock y'all, as I always do. Sea guano from bird, all different type of birds, their feces, right? But the thing where you have to be careful, and I tell this to all growers when I'm teaching them how to grow, is that when you're putting that bat guano or any type of bird, because guano just means shit, bat shit, it's bat shit, or you're using bird feces or poopings or droppings, you want to make sure that you don't even breathe in. Just hold your breath for as long as you got to do it. 2, mix it in the middle of the soil. Don't put it on the top, because if it dries, guess what happens? You can get something called histoplasmosis. Now, I'm going to read the definition of histoplasmosis because I wrote it down. Histoplasmosis is a respiratory disease that may be fatal. It results from a fungus growing in dried bird poopings. It is dimorphic. Now, dimorphic means that, it can be 2 different distinct things. And what are those 2 different distinct things? It can be a fungus or a yeast, in yeast form, or it can be a filamentous or in filamentous form. Now, filamentous means like amorphic. Amorphic means like abnormal. And then so when yeast is in its abnormal form, it's in the form of spores. That's like its vegetative state. And it spreads in 3-dimensional form. Okay, what's 3-dimensional? We already know that. Height, length, and width. Okay? So it can get, obviously increase in height, width, and length. But it's not actually reproducing sexually. It's just reproducing in its vegetative state. It's basically merging in. It's like a transformer. It is merging with spores and everything like that. It takes on a completely different form. What you would call herpes. Let's see if this is the case. Is your boy Heru reaching? Do I ever reach? I told you these Blanco's arms too short to box with God. Now we already displayed. Now, remember dimorphic. Remember filamentous. Remember those 2 concepts. Let's read. This is from a paper from some scientists who did a lot of this, this is from Slovakia. So a lot of these names, I ain't gonna hold you up. I might butcher because I can't these names, but it says this is the fungi isolated and quantified from bat guano and in air in Harmonica in Driny caves in Slovakia. Journal of Cave and Curse Studies. This is volume 78, number 1, page 41 through 49. Okay? I would dig these crackers up from the grave to prove my point. Do you know I be digging? Let's read. Now I'm gonna read kind of slow, not only for 2 reasons. One, so you can understand me, and plus I have to enlarge it because, as you can see, the print is very, very small. And they like to talk in scientific jargon, so I don't want to stumble over my words, but we're gonna get to it. So the title is Fungi Isolated and Quantified from Bat Guano and Air in Harmonica and Driny Caves. Slovakia. These are the name of the caves. Harmonica, and Driny. Those are the caves. Let's read. This study is the first mycological evaluation of bat guano and the air around it in Harmonica and Driny caves in Slovakia. These caves are the most important underground localities of bats in Slovakia. Samples were collected in July 2014 and cultivated for fungi. Harmonica cave had been 7 species of filamentous fungi and 1 yeast-like fungus isolated from bat guano, compared to 6 species of filamentous fungi and guano from Driny Cave. Air samples from Harmonica Cave had 12 species of fungi, compared to 9 species from Driny Cave. Fungal density was higher in guano from Driny Cave than from Harmonica Cave. The pattern was reversed with fungi from the air. Fungal density in air from Harmonica was higher than that from Driny Cave. Penicillium grantidatum was the most frequently isolated fungal species, except in the guano of Driny Cave, where I believe that's it gets kind of, I can't really see that. I believe that's Himalis was most common. Bat guano is a very good substrate. Now let me hear it. Bat guano is a very good substrate for the development and survival of fungi in the caves. And it could be a reservoir of fungi, even harmful for bats. However, air samples from both caves contain more species of fungi than the bat guano, because the majority of fungi are transferred to underground ecosystems with air bioaerosols from the external environment. Why is this important? Why am I even saying this? Am I going to be able to make a connection? Do you know I ain't even hit y'all with the lightning bolt yet? Why is this important? You know why this is important? Because if you have herpes and they give you medication, let me put this up for a second. Let me see which other, do I have more articles to read? Yeah, I got a couple more articles there, but I can hold off on that for a second. The active ingredient in herpes medication is acyclovir. Why is this important? That's why I'm telling you that the niggas you listen to, if they not Full Metal Alchemists, they can't help you. Because who runs the industry? These doctors, they are told by the pharmaceutical industries what to prescribe. They know little about the medication. Very little. A chemist is really actually your doctor. The doctor is just there to take the brunt. He's the middleman. He don't know shit. This is why I'm telling you that chemistry or runs that industry. That's why you gotta be a full alchemist in order to decode that shit. Let's continue. Acyclovir is the active ingredient. Why is this important, Heru? Why is this important to y'all? Because acyclovir is a synthetic form of guanosine. Why is that important, Heru? Because guanosine is bat guano. Bat shit. They are literally treating your herpes with bat shit. Oh my God. You see the bodies around me? I am killing you niggas. And oh,